morning, and the mission statement for the Lake Mills Area School District is preparing all of today's students for tomorrow's opportunities. Has the meeting been properly posted?
Yes, it was posted on the LMASD website and at the Lake Mills Post Office and submitted to the Lake Mills Leader.
All right, with that, then I will call this meeting to order, and I'll invite all those who are able to stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I will ask for a roll call for attendance.
Brianna Beslick. Here. Ken Imers.
Here.
Andrea Graham.
Here.
Kirk Lund.
Here.
Amy Litcher.
Here. All right, are there any revisions that any board members want to make to the agenda?
I'll move the board approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Although, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, we have an agenda. And we will move on to the first administrative report to Tanya Olson.
Yeah, I'll start out with the school board election results. I think that says something for our community when we have several people that want to serve on the school board. As you know, it's almost a full-time job sometimes, and it is a lot of work. So we're fortunate to live in a community where we have people that are willing to put that amount of time into helping our staff and students here. So congratulations to Andrea, one of our incumbents that was reelected to the school board, and then Abby Hale will be a new school board member starting next Monday. She took her oath of office, but she officially starts at our reorganization meeting next Monday. And we want to thank Kirk Lund for the past 3 years of serving on this school board. Kirk, I'm going to miss you at the state convention next year because he was a rock star at the state convention. And when every single school district is at that meeting, and Kirk was our delegate assembly representative. And I'll never forget the last couple of years, just random strangers coming up to me in the halls at the conference and talking about the advocacy work that Kirk did and really standing up. And it really put the Lake Mills School District in a really positive light. So I want to thank you, for that advocacy. And just, I think also you've been very vocal as far as representing students that maybe don't always have a voice, and parents that don't always have a voice. And I appreciate you being an advocate in that way as well. And I know Amy's got a few words to say.
And I extend my personal thanks to you. It's been a very jam-filled 3 years, and we've got a lot done with thanks to your help and your work behind the scenes, as with all of us, but especially yours behind the scenes, and we wouldn't be here without you. So we have a gift.
Oh.
To you. And then a certificate of commendation.
Oh, wow.
So
Thank you.
we all thank you very much.
Well, thank you all so much. It's really been an honor serving with all of you the last 3 years, and I've really enjoyed going to the State Education Convention and learning about different things from colleagues around the state. So I wish you all the best of luck, and thank you so much to all of you.
Sounds good.
All right, and our second report, it's always nice when we have these types of meetings where we're honoring our students because it means we have a great audience for our meetings. So I'm going to introduce Carmen Weldon, who's our Director of Community Education, and she's going to talk about our Youth Apprenticeship Program and present some certificates to our students. And I have to say, we've just noticed since Carmen has been in this position, just really an increase increase in the number of students we have in the youth apprenticeship program, and I think also the quality of the placements that we have as well for the students in this program. So, all right, Carmen, we'll have you come up to the mic.
I think Megan does it. So like Tanya said, my name is Carmen Weldon, and I'm here tonight with Heather Jazwowski, who is the Jefferson County Youth Apprenticeship Coordinator. And she's going to give us kind of a general overview of youth apprenticeship, and then she's going to talk a little bit more local, specific to Lake Mills. And then I'm going to go through all of our senior completers, and then talk to you a little bit about the students that we have here tonight. So I'll turn it over to Heather.
Hello, as Carmen said, my name is Heather Jazwowski. Not only do I oversee Lake Mills, but I also oversee 9 other schools in the Jefferson County area, 1 in Dane County and 1 technically considered Dodge County. Who do I tell to switch the slides? Go ahead, okay. So what is the Wisconsin Youth Apprenticeship? This is kind of just an overview for anybody who's unaware, maybe needs a little refresher about what this program actually does in the schools and how it's benefiting the community. There we go. So youth apprenticeships in the 34th year. When we say employer-driven training, without employers, we don't have a program. So we very much appreciate any employers that we can get, whether it be a family business, a large corporation, whatever we can do to work and get those employers in and connected to the schools. Because we always say, if you don't find those students when they're in the 4 walls of that high school, you'll probably never see them again. There are 16 different cluster areas, and it aligns academic and career preparation. So if they are, say, in agriculture, and when they are in school, they should be taking classes aligned with an agriculture pathway. For example, if they're taking plant fundamentals, they should be doing something with greenhouse or crops. And then the students can participate for 1 to 2 years. It is a program that is only open to juniors and seniors. Go ahead. These are the areas that are offered. Amongst these areas, there's about 87, 88 different pathways that you can go into. The newest ones that were introduced this year were government, law, public safety, corrections, and security. And ones that we are just merging into that were newer last year are human services and business administration. So those ones we don't have a ton of students in, but we're slowly getting there. Go ahead. So YA and Skill Connection is the career ready, learning ready, and life ready skills. Basically what this is, it's combining the soft skills and how you can justify them between work and school and how everything can meld together, and what the DPI is looking for is all these clusters as well, and how YA can benefit not only the school, but to satisfy the DPI clusters. Go ahead. So as I said before, it's a junior or senior in high school. We can have students start as juniors as early as the day after the seniors graduate. So sophomores can join the youth apprenticeship program and work through the summer after the seniors graduate. When the seniors graduate, they have until August 31st to complete their YA work hours. So they are still part of the program after they have graduated. They must complete the YA application process. That's simply they go and speak to somebody in the school like Carmen, for example, say, I either have a job or this is what I'm interested in, and can you help me find a job? I have a huge database, and we have a terrific person, he couldn't be here tonight, Rich Dykstra, who will go out and talk to the local businesses, and we all work together to find out what the student can do and who can help us out with that. So they have a detailed career plan. Again, like I said before, they know what they want to do, and then they have to have that coursework that aligns with it. And it's more than just a job. It's an overall encompassing work experience where they can learn the life skills, the communication skills, everything besides just going to work every day. They're learning just how to adult in a sense. Enrolled in career-related instruction, same as before. And for 1 year, they will have to do 450 hours for 1 year and 900 hours for 2 years. Sounds like a lot, but technically that breaks down to about 10, 15 hours a work week. Go ahead. Role of the employer, they'll interview applicants just like any other person off the street. They're treated just like any other person that wants a job. They need to provide a mentor or a support person. In some locations, they provide more than one. Basically, it's just their contact touch point, that if they have a question, they can go to that person. And once that the mentor is confident the student can do the job on their own, they'll step back and they'll let that student kind of complete things on their own, but they need to be there so that student has questions. There's that comfort person they can go to. They need to provide that well-rounded experience. So the OJL, or on-the-job learning guide that the state provides to us, the mentor and the employer need to fulfill that so the student can get their youth apprenticeship certification. They need to provide a competitive wage, so $7.25 or higher. That being said, most employers nowadays are starting at $15. The highest I've had any student make this year is about $30 an hour. One of the places that are still a little bit lower are agriculture, because those students get paid in other capacities besides money, and hospitality, because that can be kind of a tip system, and that's with that. And then obviously they need to provide those students hours so they can complete their YA. Go ahead. This is just showing Lake Mills alone, the enrollment, how it's increased over the years. As you can see in 2016, 2017, we had 8 students and 9 employers. I know that sounds a little off, but there might have been a student that maybe dropped out, or they switched career pathways, so that gives us more employers. But just in a few years, we've advanced to 29 students and 26 employers. That is just a steady increase, and that's fantastic, and we are looking to increase the program every single year. Go ahead. So the fast facts, the highest GPA, and this again is Lake Mills alone, is 4.0. The lowest GPA is 1.3, and average GPA is 3.0. Now you may say, why would you call somebody out and put their lowest GPA on there? I've had students come into the program with a 0.5 GPA. YA is one of the only reasons they have graduated from high school, because that on-the-job learning is when they can finally correlate what they're learning in the classroom to what they're doing in the workplace. And suddenly they just thrive and understand this is why. My son, for example, is one of those students that always like, why do I gotta learn this? And then I will tell him because of this, and then it makes sense. So it just shows too that it doesn't matter how well your grades are in school, YA can really be for anybody. The highest wage in Lake Mills is $20 an hour. Average wage is $13.57. Students employed through YA was 24, 18 of them being seniors, and we have 22 mentors this year. The return on investment is a huge thing. If you ever want to talk about to employers why the program benefits the schools, the state of Wisconsin, the economy in general. For every dollar, YA is a grant-funded program through the state of Wisconsin. For every dollar we invest in a student, the state of Wisconsin gets back $8.28. It has not gone below that in the past 3 years. It's been at least an $8 or more investment that we get back. So that's amazing when you think about it. That money is coming back to our community. And I will turn it back over to Carmen, and she'll go ahead and present the students.
So I'm just going to go through and present the senior completers that we have this year. So we have 14 completers, and we've listed them by cluster. So we have 3 students in agriculture, Oscar, Landon, and Nathaniel. You can go to the next one. And then we have Caden, who is here tonight, and he is in architecture and construction at 1901 Incorporated. We have 2 seniors in finance. Baden is here tonight, and Eric. They both work at Lake Mills Market in the accounting department as bookkeepers. Addie Ninneman, she is under health services, and she works at as a CNA in Watertown, but she also works for us in the Lake Mills Area School District. So she works at the elementary school, and she helps nurse Pill out during the day. I think in the morning she's there. So we're recording hours for Addie in both places. Under hospitality, Tanner Wendorf is at Timber Creek. And we have another student at the school district, Henry Hooper, is under information technology, so he works with our IT department, and he started last summer with them, and there was a lot of projects that they were all working on, and he's continued throughout the school year helping them out. 2 students in marketing. We have Madison DeVoy, who's here tonight. She works at Lake Mills Market, and she's kind of under agriculture and marketing because she works in the produce department, so it's kind of an agribusiness. And then Autumn Woleen, who works at Old Navy. And then our 2 softball players under marketing, they both work at Easy Promotion, Savannah Radke and Peyton Quest. And then Clovis, who is here tonight as well, we have him under a biotechnology YA, and that's through the Dane County Consortium, and he works at Django Bio. And then I think what I'm going to do, maybe we can have you come back and do this in questions. I'd like to just recognize the students that are here tonight, call them up because we have a certificate for them, and maybe we can get a group picture when they're all up here. So congratulations to Baden Bentheimer. Come on up.
Just a shout out to him too. He is one of our night auto class students. So that was running this year too. And thanks to Tara Topol for offering to use her facility for that as well. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's an awesome space to learn. Next up, we have Kaden Bleefernicht. Congratulations, Kaden.
So they're very busy students.
Yeah, this is a very busy time of year, so we have people at softball, we have people that were traveling because we didn't have school today, so we appreciate the 4 of you being able to be here tonight with us. It's awesome. Hold up those certificates.
Just kidding.
That's funny. That's awesome. I'm just going to turn it over to Heather. She's got one more slide that she wanted to share, and then we'll ask you if you have any questions. And then when we're done, we're going to take all these folks downstairs for some cake.
So yeah, the last thing I like to mention is YA has now been created and that the new on-the-job learning guides to directly bridge into the registered or adult apprenticeship programs. So depending on what area these students are in, architecture and construction is a fabulous one to mention. They can use their youth apprenticeship hours to directly go into their adult apprenticeship hours. Therefore, they can get through their registered apprenticeship, adult apprenticeship a lot faster than an adult who's just starting out. And that gets them, their certificates can also, when they've completed the state, can go towards scholarships, college, if that's the direction they want to go. But RA is a great way to go as well. And then last slide. And that, yeah, if anybody has questions for myself or Carmen, you could ask them now, or we're always available to email.
I would say if you are watching this meeting from home and you are a business owner in town, how would you go about getting a student apprentice?
The best way to start out is if you're looking in the Lake Mills school area alone is to contact Carmen, and then she will get that information onto the students to say there's this job available, who would be interested. If a company does not have any interest in a position they have and they give us permission, then I widen out to the surrounding schools and beyond, depending on what they're looking for. But everything would start in the school with Carmen, and she then gets a hold of me, and I'm the liaison between the state of Wisconsin and then the schools.
And I would just add, from watching a lot of youth apprentices over the years, just because you're doing an apprenticeship in one field doesn't necessarily mean that that's the career that they're going to maybe pursue post high school. But I think that benefit of having that apprenticeship under your belt really just broadens your horizons for any career that you're going to choose after high school.
It does help as well that if they find out they really, really love nursing and they get that CNA in high school and then they go on to become a registered nurse, they already have that under their belt and they're ahead of the game with everybody else. I've had students as well, and I use architecture and construction as one because I did it since I've been very young, that some people get out there and they realize, oh my gosh, I don't like this heat, I don't like the work, I don't like swinging a hammer, I don't like any of this. And so youth apprenticeship is a way to experiment and experience what you can and maybe do and don't like doing in the workforce. And so we have had students that eventually this isn't for me, and that we allow them to trade up and choose a different area that maybe suits them better.
Are these hours always during the school day, or are they after school, or how does the hours work? And
Depending on the area, a lot of our students, especially in agriculture, construction, therefore, will get most of their hours in the summertime. They are required to work some hours throughout the entire school year. It can be sporadic, it can be the 10 hours a week, it can be all during vacations and breaks. They're allowed to work before school or after school. Becoming a student learner with the ETA, it's an employer training agreement, they then become what's known as a student learner. And they have special status that allows them to do things in a workplace that just a normal high school student would not be allowed to do. So depending on how the school is set up, and every school is a little bit different, they do work release, and therefore the student can either go to work in the morning and come in a little school a little bit later, or they can leave early, go to school in the afternoon, or some just work weekends and holidays. So it all depends on how that student's school work life is set up and how school would like to handle it.
And I can just speak to that. So at the high school, we give students a block for their youth apprenticeship. So then typically it's in the morning or the afternoon. Sometimes seniors, after they've completed the majority of their graduation requirements, they might have 2 blocks. Caden is working pretty much all morning for his youth apprenticeship. So they do get 1 block. It's a youth apprenticeship block, and they do get credit for that too.
And then within their course guide, is this something that's listed in there so the kids know that this is an opportunity they have, or how do they find out about it?
So that's something that we talk about during course registration. So we're going through that with the 8th graders, and then the school counselors, when they revisit it with 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, they talk about that during that process. Our CTE teachers are really good about that too. I think Mr. Lear and our tech ed teacher, that's something that he does his first day of class, is kind of goes through all of the apprenticeship opportunities that we have in the area, so that all of his classes are aware of what's out there and what they could be doing and what opportunities they have.
And is there an opportunity for them to transition into it later into the year if they stumble upon something they're interested in or curious about?
Yeah, there's certain dates that we do need to follow, but if somebody were to come to me, or if the counselors were to reach out to me, I always reach out to Heather and say, hey, are we still within the window? And it's been working out for sure.
The only cutoff point we really have is typically with seniors. If they aren't enrolled before March, we
hard
usually
to
have
do.
to
Enough
say
time.
no if they don't, or if they're just starting a brand new job, because to get that 450 hours, I have had some that do it, but that's one of the things that I leave it up to the school. If you feel the student has the initiative and the time and they can get that 450 hours and you have faith in them, I'll sign them up. If you don't think they're gonna get that 450 before August 31st of their senior year, we kind of have to deny them. And it's a kind of a paper trail constraint with the state of Wisconsin, why it's got to be that drop dead date of August 31st.
all right. So can people do start college now and an apprenticeship, or is this kind of like
Absolutely.
either or pathway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Addie Ninneman is a good example. So she's working as a CNA, and she took her nursing assistant course through Start College now.
Wow. You can layer a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
the other thing too is the certifications in the education pathway. You need to get the early childhood certifications. In architecture and construction, if you're an electrician, you need to get the DSPS certification. Pharmacist is I don't remember what the acronym stands for, I apologize. But pharmacy tech also needs the DSPS. Architecture and construction, you get the OSHA 10 or the OSHA 30. So that's also getting those certifications that just launch you into a whole nother aspect of being able to start your career right out of high school.
You mentioned, it's a great program. You mentioned that the students get a lot of experience even outside of what the job actually is, just by adjusting to the work. I was just interested in what you see as maybe a couple of the more prominent adjustments that kids go through.
Personally, it's self-advocation. That's the one that I noticed the most, as far as they're coming into themselves and they're learning they can speak up for themselves. And they're learning how to communicate with adults and not be afraid to say, how do you do this? Or I feel like this is wrong in this position. And so just them opening up to being an adult, I guess you could say, is just amazing how the YA helps with that too, because they're given that mentorship and a person they're comfortable with that opens them up to more opportunities within the company to actually flourish.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to Tasha Naylor and our Director of Business Services report.
Hi. So shifting gears, I'm going to talk a little bit about our insurance renewal. Much different than YA. So just a reminder that during our April 7th committee meeting, we had Alex Boudry from USI come in and talk a little bit about our renewal. And initially it was at 10.9%, so he came and talked to us a little bit about that. And one of the things that we learned about at that meeting was the industry market average increase in healthcare tends to be around 8%. He said 8 to 8.5. I've heard up to 10%. So we weren't too far off in that kind of range, but on the high end of that. So he talked a little bit about some options that we would like to propose or have talked about with the board for our staff members, both being high deductible plans. So one being the current plan that we have, which has that $3,000, $6,000 deductible, and then adding an additional plan of a $4,000, $8,000 deductible. And with that higher deductible plan, we would have a lower premium. So this provides an extra option for staff members who may not meet those deductibles. So a choice of an even higher deductible plan with a lower premium might be the way to go for them. So those options are presented in the board packet. The district will maintain an 88% contribution to these to the lower cost plan, allowing the staff to make the choice of what is most suitable for them. I did send a preliminary email to all staff after this meeting that we had with Alex, just giving them a little extra time to look at these options. There were some initial questions, not too many, but some that we were able to work through with them. But just kind of wanted them to have a little bit of an opportunity to take it into consideration before we had open enrollment, which is going to be May 1st through the 16th, when they actually go in and elect what choices they'd like to make. In addition to that, we have should this be approved tonight, we have a scheduled meeting with USI, a virtual meeting that is a representative from USI is going to be hosting. So her name is Heather, and she'll be able to provide more information about these plans and answer any questions that staff may have. So staff are encouraged to join this meeting to listen to the options. Spouses are welcome to join if they have questions. And then it also will be recorded, so those that are not able to make it can listen to the recording. And then we also are available for any questions that they may have. So this is on the agenda to be approved during the consent agenda. Or the action reports, I should say, action items.
And this was discussed at this past committee meeting?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And just to add, think it was a really good process, but again, healthcare costs, insurance costs just continue to go up each year. So each year it takes a lot of thought on how to get the best outcomes for everybody. You know? So I think this was a good discussion this people had for this.
I agree. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, thank you. All right, moving on to board reports, and we will hear from our student representative, Erin Williams.
Okay. So we're in the fourth quarter now. Forensics had their state competition on April 11th. Also on April 11th, seniors had their senior portfolio interviews. For spring sports, girls soccer's next game is tomorrow against Columbus, and it's home. Softball has a game right now against Deerfield at Deerfield. Baseball's next game is tomorrow against Portnet, and it is at Portnet. Golf had a meet earlier today, and then their next meet will be a home meet on Thursday. And then track's next meet is at Lakeside tomorrow. NHS is hosting a spring blood drive this Wednesday throughout the school day in the lower gym. And then Interact has rescheduled the basketball teacher versus student games during advisory for May 1st. And then finally, the student Rotarians for April are Alex Paris and Nate Hahn.
Thank you.
Aaron, was the track meet tomorrow night, or tomorrow, did you say? Just
It was, yeah, it's tomorrow.
tomorrow? Okay.
At Lakeside.
Lakeside, okay.
All right.
May,
In a week and a half.
yeah.
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 We'll be ready to sleep, but, because, for post-prom, Rotary's hosting post-prom. But no, my son's not going. Okay. All right. All right, moving on to the first reading, the policy of the policy 5411. So.
Yes, this was an extra one that wasn't taken through the policy committee. So due to the requirements through Act 20, school boards are required to have this policy in place by July 1st. We just got the Neola update in March. So I did talk with our two policy committee members to see how we want to go about that, if we wanted to schedule a special policy committee or not. And so we thought by having it on the board agenda for April, and then May, we'd be able to get our two readings in. I can say we took the template from Neola, and Erin Seachlog actually spent the majority of the time looking through this with her connections with the curriculum directors across the state. There were several recommendations through DPI and again through Neola. And I know talking with Erin, she really wanted to approach this policy not with the deficit mindset that seemed to come through with the DPI recommended language, and that comes through the promotion and retention. So we did really try not to emphasize retention. We know that the research shows that retention is not good for kids, especially by the third grade level. There's many implications to retention by the time students are juniors and seniors in high school. So we already have procedures in place to work with kids with interventions to help them achieve what they need to achieve as far as reading. So I feel that this policy does take that all into account. It's a nice wraparound plan that includes parents. And so this is open for any type of revisions you may wish to see if there's something you did not like on this policy.
Are there any questions for this?
I just had, I wasn't quite as familiar with the overall picture of a reading plan, because there is a lot of emphasis on that. Is that for the whole year, the reading plan, or?
Erin, I'll have you come up and answer some of those questions. Erin and Wendy are entrenched in this right now.
Or even Erin, do you have an example reading plan, even of a student that we could block? I'm just
I haven't seen one either because I don't have my own classroom at this point. So I'm wondering if that could be something you could share with the board, just what the reading plan looks like what a parent copy would get, or,
Yes, at some point I definitely can. At this moment, no.
well, of course not right now.
But so the way that it works is we have screening 3 times a year. This year we were required to start it in the winter, or you could start in the fall. That was optional. We started in the winter. We piloted with a couple of teachers in 3rd grade in the fall, and then spring. And every time you do a screener, if a new student falls below the 25th percentile, they receive a personal reading plan. That reading plan is really focused on what is their area of need. We figure out what intervention is going to meet that need and how are we going to monitor their progress towards meeting that. This includes any and every student within. There are no opt-outs. There are no, my student isn't going to do this. Parents don't actually get to opt their students out of a reading plan because this is a state mandate, like it's their choice, right? They're telling us to do this. So right now we are sending our plans out through our data warehouse. And so parents are able to see it. They're able to also then log back in to check on their students' progress. Otherwise, we provide progress updates. The state says we have to do that every 10 weeks, which falls really close to when the windows are. So, but the plan, you might not be on a plan all year though, Ken, to go back to your question. A student in grades kindergarten through 2nd grade, as soon as they meet their progress monitoring goal, which for dismissal, that's usually 3 to 5 points above what their goal should be, they can be dismissed from their plan. Unfortunately, for 3rd grade, the only way to exit their plan is to be proficient on the forward exam and meet the goal of their plan. So we can't, once a 3rd grader is flagged and has a plan, they can't be removed. That plan can't go away until we get our forward results back. And that doesn't happen until this year. They tell us the end of May, which is a full month earlier than usual. We can change the supports and lessen the supports if we believe that they've met the goal, but we can't remove 3rd graders from the plan. And then leaving 3rd grade, that's where this policy comes into effect. It's about 3rd graders. If they are not proficient on the Wisconsin Forward exam, that's where they talk about needing a policy around what happens with those students. As Dr. Olson mentioned, our philosophy based on research is that you focus on promotion, like the promotion to 4th grade with a set plan of how are you going to intervene to continue to move a child towards proficiency. And according to the state, they can be removed from a plan once they meet 3rd grade reading. Obviously, we continue to support to build students until whatever grade they're in to get them to that proficiency. And we know that not all students, because of various learning disabilities, dyslexia, sometimes hitting 3rd grade reading proficiency can be really tough, depending on early interventions. So we're working on our system a little bit more too, but that's kind of where we are right now.
So the screeners up until that point are like the 1-minute reads.
Depending on your grade level, for the most part, every grade does, so 1st through 3rd grade do oral reading fluency, which is 2 1-minute passages that they have to read aloud. But they also, in 2nd and 3rd grade, they do a vocabulary assessment on the computer. Kindergarten and 1st grade, they have pictures, and it's point to the picture of grapes, and it's an auditory vocabulary. There are a few more. Kindergarten and 1st grade have more assessments. They might do phoneme segmentation. So if I say the word cat, can you tell me the sounds you hear? What's the first sound in pig? Student has to reply P. So there's a variety of assessments, and it changes depending on the window for kindergarten and 1st grade. 2nd and 3rd are consistent.
What if in 4th grade they're not? So then if a student doesn't get proficiency on the forward in 3rd grade, and then they have the plan, they're promoted, what if they don't, do we look at 4th grade again? Or?
Then, yep, in 4th grade, it is, then you can base it off of what the goal you set for that student is. They would say you should use the forward exam, but in 4th grade, parents can opt their child out of the forward exam.
So is there a retention component in 4th or 5th or 6th, or is it just 3rd grade?
It's continued, the policy only applies to 3rd grade.
Okay. I guess I worry a little bit that we let them go in third and then they're still not making,
Right.
yeah.
The idea is behind you're continuing the interventions that were put into place. Ideally, right, like with this in place, we should be catching the majority of our students who are struggling readers or striving readers early on so that that doesn't happen. We know that there's always going to be a select small population that are going to need that continued support. And
Or
so,
possibly then they get an IEP based on testing.
like if yes, so that's a part of the work that we have to do in parent notification is we have to alert them to not only the dyslexia guidebook that's put out by DPI, but also what is the process for for special education evaluation, or if they have questions or concerns. We're required by the state to do that when we provide information to families, and that's all on our early literacy website as well.
Is there any talk about, because I know like schools are not allowed to diagnose dyslexia, that has to be
Correct.
through a physician. So is there any talk about how that's going to change possibly, and schools will take some responsibility for that diagnosis? Or, because I know people are waiting a year to get into a neuropsych and things. I'm just thinking about all the issues that might keep us from.
Yeah, at this point, they will say you can look for those tendencies that you see, and we know that there are research-backed interventions that support students with dyslexia. And so, for example, at the elementary school, we'll use like Orton Gillingham, which has been shown to be effective with students with dyslexia if we're seeing some of those tendencies. But we do have that honest conversation with families that we can't diagnose that, and that does have to be done on the outside. Based on my state conversations, they're not looking at how does that move into the school. I don't know how schools would be able to pick that up. I mean, just considering staffing and budgets and things, but.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you so much, Erin. All right, moving on to the student cell phone policies. And we've got some options, or is this the first discussion?
I'm going to turn that over to Andrea. So, Andrea, this is your agenda item that you've been asking for. So we're finally able to kind of start the discussions of where the board wants to go. What I did is I just loaded in, policies, because obviously whatever the board would decide, if you would decide something different, it's going to be driven, through policy and then into the school handbooks. So I think it's just a discussion as far as, what do you want to see changed? What would you like to see maybe revised?
I think we've had, a policy previously. It's just the main part that I think they should be off and away for the day, whereas now we're allowing them during passing periods, lunchtime, recess. And then I know sometimes too, it's just teacher to teacher, like some teachers have a little more tolerance for the cell phones and versus others. And so I feel like it needs to be a policy that everyone's on the same page so that there's no exceptions, well, this teacher lets me, so why can't I in this class, that kind of a thing. I think off and away for the day. I don't know if our language needs to be more specific, like we have a specific place they need to be, like out of their pockets, in their locker. I don't know if anyone else has opinions on that. I would be happy to have like pouches where they're off in pouches, but that's also materials that we would need to get and enforce, so.
I would add on to that, just because in middle school, I've seen the students not tending to really use lockers, correct, Chuck, as much. So I think if you're going to make sure they're not on their person, they would probably have to go some route like that, of some kind of pouches or cases, that I've seen in other schools. But I know they just tend not to use their lockers like they used to at that level.
I guess I would agree with that, and including the high school. I am opposed to I agree that they shouldn't be allowed in the passing periods, because it just gets too easy for the kids to not turn them off, and a universal policy. It's not teacher decide this here, this there. So I think and especially since we're going to one-on-one at the high school as well, that I hope that the educators that would want to use, that are able to use or would want to use the cell phones, that they could just transition that into using the laptop or the Chromebooks, the one-on-one materials.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the current policies, probably met what was currently being done because we needed sometimes those personal devices or cell phones to be able to do work or whatever the case may be. But as we're kind of shifting in what we can provide and what we should be providing students to give them all the same opportunity, I think that could then create a new policy for us, especially after the great book discussion and great feedback we had from, parents, community members in regards to just overstimulation and cell phones and, distractedness of everything. So I think it's a great conversation to continue to have and what that might look like for us in the future.
I think,
No, you go ahead.
sure. One of the things that struck me with the article that was also included was just this whole concept of engagement. And we work so hard to create an environment where students are engaged. And, that supports a lot of academic achievement. I think, and I'll just speak from personal experience when I was working, sometimes you get a text and it's, or, just your mind goes somewhere else. And that sometimes can stay with you for a few hours or a day. So, for me, it really is, how can you maximize engagement with the students? So I'm very supportive of things like what you were mentioning, I'm not sure what the logistical
Right.
pieces would all be, but I'm supportive of doing something more. And I think you raised an important point, Amy, about not making it custom for every class, or, I think it really needs to be pretty sturdy as a policy. The other thing I noticed in the article was that a couple keys to the success that people had was essentially a lot of communication with parents, a lot of involvement, and so that when things did change, there were many questions were answered, and people had time to adjust. I think the idea of my son or daughter isn't going to have a cell phone, what does that mean for me, kind of is important.
Because it changes up your communication with your child, right? I know a lot of parents, when, plans change at the end of the day, sometimes it's almost easier just to text your child versus calling the school office. I know, safety concerns also are always probably, I'm sure, at the forefront of parents' minds, being able to reach your child if there was an emergency.
And I think that I like the idea of forming this ad hoc committee of parents to solicit feedback, depending, and from what I'm hearing, it sounds like we're kind of in agreement, the board is in an agreement that it shouldn't be teacher to teacher or educator to educator decision. It's going to be a universal one.
And I was going to say, along your lines of engagement within the classroom, I think it'd be very interesting our YA program, the productivity in the field. I can't imagine that these kiddos who are out there with their job, that those employers are promoting cell phone usage, I think there's, as an employer, business owner, it is one of those things that I kind of, look at as well. I want them to be as productive in the field as they would in the classroom, being engaged. And so sometimes you're right, that cell phone can stop them from doing that. There's a time and a place. But I think that it's, finding those times and places and understanding how to manage that. And when we're younger, it's really hard to discern sometimes. And so if we can help guide them and teach them, because that's what we are here to do, teach them when those appropriate times are, and then they can hopefully grasp that a little bit better once they're in the workplace.
And as an adult that only got their first cell phone at 35, I would like to hear how Aaron feels about this.
I agree.
For me, I haven't really had an issue not using my phone because I just like turn it off or put it on do not disturb. And like, I kind of see it as like consequences. If like they're on it, then they're not paying attention, then that's just harming their work. And then it's like, oh, then you learn. But I can see where it's like putting it away or making it like stays in backpacks for all teachers or, yeah.
And I know I won't be voting on this issue, but I also am supportive of what Andrea said of, what was it, off and away for the day? And that it needs to be, take it out of the hands of individual teachers so there's no variation, it's just one policy. I agree with that.
I think technology has just continued to evolve, right? It's always something that school boards are looking at. I even remember as a first-year teacher talking to our superintendent in the book that he wrote, and, the things that they were looking at just computer-wise back then, and now we've evolved, and we've got elementary kids with their special watches, that kind of similarly do the same thing. And so I think it's just going to be a continuing conversation for school boards as we continue to move through technology.
And knowing that the legislation potentially is coming through, we might not have, I think we might not have a choice. So, but I think that that's a good thing.
I think if we step back, it's so part of our day-to-day now, and it's kind of just become normal, but if we all step back and just think about, like, should a sixth grader have a phone on them all day long and be able to, in between classes, play games, take pictures of people? No. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like if we just take a step back, I understand, like, this is the world we're living in, but we need to make the world safe for our kids and what we want it to be for our kids. I think it's time for the adults to do the adulting, and just say, no, you're not going to have your cell phone. And we're going to have tough conversations with fellow parents and community members of, I understand that you're used to parenting your child that way or having communication all the time, but I think once the changes happen, I can't imagine that anyone will think that it's a bad thing. I don't know. You can come back to me later and say I was wrong, and that's fine, but I really think that we're all going to see that it's better for our kids' learning, for their mental health. We had the presentation about the anxious generation, just the effect on the brain when you're just hit, respond. It's just those endorphins and that cortisol release and all these things. Just an example from my own school, even a couple weeks ago, our internet was out for an entire day. And so none of the kids could work on their Chromebooks the entire day. And my principal, just anecdotal data, but there was a lot less behavior calls that day for student behavior issues. And they were kind of talking about it even within the principals in the district, like, wow, is your data down too? Or your, behavior calls? Like, I need support for this student, or, so it'll just be interesting to see if we see data in that way, because we can't deny, as adults, there are times where you pick up your cell phone and you're like, why am I looking at my cell phone right now? Like, it's okay to just be bored for a second. Boredom, it breeds creativity and hopefully socialization and friendships. And I just think if we do this, we'd be giving our kids a gift. And I think we'd help our teachers out a lot too. There's a lot of times that you just don't want to pick that battle, because if I pick that battle, then it's going to be, and so, but if we never pick any of the battles, I don't think we're doing what's right for kids. So I think this is a battle we should pick, and I think everyone will be a lot better off.
I wholeheartly agree.
Is it a possibility to create some sort of ad hoc group in the near future? Like, what is our timing? What do we think how quickly could we get a group together?
Yeah, I think it depends on who you want to lead the ad hoc, if it's going to be a board member, or if you want one of the administrators, or if it's somebody else. If it's something that I feel like I've got my hands full with construction right now. We'll be going to bid here for the elementary project before school starts, later on this summer. But I agree. I think maybe it's something that gets, I think having it in place by fall might be a little bit fast, just because you do lose some parent engagement over the summer if we're going to incorporate parents into this.
I think we talked about too, maybe even just some surveys to community members, to parents, to teachers about like, what is your view on this? Like, it'd be interesting just to see what people's like just initial, and to get, I mean, if students took a survey, like, do you think it would be good to not have cell phones? Like, it'd be just kind of an interesting, just an easy Google survey, Google form or something. And that would be something maybe even a student could put together. And I mean, I don't know, but.
I was going to say, I think our school perceptions package offers multiple things, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're more custom-made surveys, so not necessarily one that is already ready to go about cell phone usage. But I think, even a Google form really, I mean, wouldn't be a lot of questions on there. I know we're still in the middle of our parent and staff survey right now. The parent survey closes on Wednesday, and our staff survey just opened today. That's why I was thinking, like, we definitely want to get through the survey process that we're currently in. And I'd be interested to hear what staff have to say overall. I've heard some mixed views from staff, but that was before we were going to be one-to-one at the high school, working through the admin team. So I think what I'd like to do is kind of put that process together as far as even a timeline, who would be involved, incorporating the surveys, how would we go about moving through this, and even talk to some of my colleagues that have already gone through that entire process and implemented new cell phone policies.
So we think maybe if we were to start something this summer into fall, then possibly by second semester. I mean, could you see putting a policy in place mid-year, or do you think it would be doable, or would you rather have it wait for like the beginning of the
I think it's possible. I know we'll be doing the one-to-one rollout at the high school in the fall. So I think we want to be able to, get through that, because our, administrative team is still working through that and the new procedures and for how we're going to, we haven't even really taught the high schoolers as far as like what the expectations are for those Chromebooks. So getting through, I would say, at least a semester of that, and then working with parents.
Yeah, it sounds good to me, and it also gives our educators enough time to maybe, if they do teach through a phone, a potential semester to work through, to get switched from the, I don't even know, but a phone to a Chromebook app or what, I don't know.
They can.
Okay.
Very quickly.
Okay, yeah.
I know what you're saying, though. Yeah. Sorry,
All
I'm
right.
excited.
Amy,
I'm very excited about this, and I appreciate you being supportive of this, and I welcome any emails, comments. I think we want to hear from the community about this too. So if there are strong feelings, then please let them be known now.
And just an FYI, a pathway, all our emails are listed on the school district website, and all our meetings that are open to the public and people provide comments, and you can just come to the meeting and sign up to provide comments, so, all of our regular meetings, so.
Just quickly, you mentioned a bill for the cell phone. I know there was something out there, but I wasn't sure about the timing, and is it something that's going to pop up for some decisions within the next 6 months or so?
The proposed legislation, and I haven't been following this one, so I don't know if it's on a path to pass or not, but the proposed legislation by no later than October 1st of 2026.
Okay.
Submit a policy, and no later than October of 2027 to, looks like, implement the policy. But that's just a bill that's out there.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
All right, then moving on, there's no other questions. To the facility referendum Updates, we had a core team meeting, what was it, last week? Yeah, last Tuesday. And at that core team meeting, the elementary school, there was no really discussion on any of the elementary school project or the construction, other than an update on some easement issues that are going to be potentially remedied at these next two city meetings. And so we'll see how that goes, but that was the email that went to all of us with just the update on it's in the city committee easements and that, so.
Yep, we'll be at zoning meetings on Tuesday and Wednesday. I think, kind of like I alluded in the cell phone discussion, so depending on how that goes on Tuesday and Wednesday, that elementary edition is ready to go out to bid here late summer, and we're looking at breaking ground right about the time school starts. So we'll be busy if everything goes right. I'll be working with Wendy to find a date on the groundbreaking ceremony and trying to get that up and moving. Likewise, the middle school library project is finalized. That's a little bit of a different bid package because it's just really some more of a furniture solution, some electrical solutions, and we'll be doing some kind of cool things with the ceiling out there. But I think the most exciting thing that happened last week was our designer for the project through EUA met with a group of middle school students, and they looked at the outside of the middle school library, just because, how many times I've walked past Ethan Flurkey, and I teased him one day because he's always ordering things off of Amazon to try to stick things to the wall and decorate it and make the library really engaging. We said, as part of this project, why don't we do a more permanent solution so that he's not trying to hang things constantly up on the walls? So Jordan met with a group of middle school students and just brainstormed, and I was amazed at how creative those middle school students were at incorporating literature and graphic novels and just things like that into the design. So she's going to bring that back to the core team. And then she went up to the high school and met with a group of high school students as well to help design a blank wall that we had. So in the new gym, there'll be the new gym is going to connect via a grand staircase up to our current upstairs gym. And so there was a blank wall up by the staircase. So we left that as a blank slate for the high schoolers to weigh in. So she was incorporating design suggestions from them as well. So, and we'll get some glimpses of that. But it's really cool to have the student voice in the design of these projects. I can't wait for you to get a in-depth look at those. I know Jordan will be coming to the middle school staff meeting in May, correct, Chuck? That was the May staff meeting. She's going to walk through the plan, and I think she's going to reach out to you, Wendy, as well, just to let the staff start seeing some designs, especially now that those are final. The high school plan is still very much involved. We've got a year of design yet, but it is really moving along even better than I could have expected, so.
And we got to see a 3D walkthrough of the potential lobby for the new gym and up the staircase, as well as looking at the exterior of the exterior options for the new gyms. And so that's still up in the air. And
we'll have Teresa come back and do that with the full board. We actually have a full day of high school staff meetings coming up in about a week. So they'll go through each group that those areas affect with that draft and get more input on that design. And then I think they're starting to get very, very close on some of those elements. And again, I am really encouraged by the amount of staff input with the high school, well, actually with all of the projects that they've been able to have. It's very much directed by the staff that are using those spaces.
So with the elementary spacing, like, can we write letters to someone? I guess, what do you need to support? I know you mentioned that you'll be at the meeting this week or 2 different meetings to hopefully get a solution, but what can we do to help at all?
Right, I think, I mean, if we're feeling fairly confident this, the city wants to work with us, there's just certain setbacks and rules that they need to follow. So we're just really making our case as to why we don't want to shrink the footprint of the building, because it'd be reducing the space that would be available for students to use. And this whole referendum at the elementary has been about, having enough space, especially, in those 4K classrooms. So we're really, that's what we're working through, is just, explaining why we would rather have the variance versus shrinking the size of that addition.
Can we go up if need be? Like, could we do a 2-story addition rather than 1-story and make it, like, I guess, what are the options if it doesn't get
I
approved?
mean, it's really, in the whole scheme of things, it would be just shrinking down the classroom spaces by a couple of feet, not really even a couple of feet. And they can't go up, really. This 4-room addition will max out our geothermal load
okay.
without having to add a separate HVAC system onto the building.
Okay. So it's still going to work out. It's just
I'm
the way we want
feeling
it to work out.
hopeful, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
All right, moving on to community input section. Are there anybody that signed up? All right. Then now on to the consent agenda. This month's consent agenda includes the approval of the following: March 17th, regular meeting minutes, March 17th, Board of Education workshop proceedings, April 7th, Finance, Personnel, and Facilities Committee proceedings, Treasurer's report and vouchers and invoices, and the Personnel report. So are there any items that would like to be separated to discuss and approve separately?
I'll move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion as far as any of the items? All right, hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Brianna Beslick.
Aye.
Ken Imers.
Aye.
Andrea Grimm.
Aye.
Kirk Lund.
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
Aye. All right, on to action item 6A, the 2025-26 CISA 2 contract. And
Just our annual contract. I think we have this contract down to about the minimum amount possible for CISA 2 services.
okay,
I'll move the board approve the 2025-2026 CISA 2 contract as presented.
I'll second that motion.
it's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Andrea Grimm.
Aye.
Kirk Lund.
Aye.
Brianna Beslick.
Aye.
Ken Imers.
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
Aye. All right, volume 34, number 1, policies, EDGAR policies.
There was, I know, a question about 2 of the policies, so I wasn't sure then if there was any revisions that you wanted to make to either one of those.
Well, I mean, I think I understand now your concern about language in policy 2210 that is not consistent with state statute, and I'm okay with that. I would argue for adding back in the stricken line from policy 5512 that I understand that having to do with Native American ceremonial use of tobacco, and that Neolia had said that districts who weren't close to the reservations hadn't been putting that in. I would argue that it's really, I mean, whether or not we have occasion to use the policy, it's one more little voice for diversity and indigenous rights.
After you had brought that up, and then, as you know, I'm on the Board of Trustees for Madison College, and then I started looking at the population at Madison College that attends there, that this, could potentially affect. I mean, right now, you're right, we don't have students that maybe this would affect, but I could see at some point in the future that we would.
Yeah, it can't hurt to have it.
So do I have to make a motion then to add that back in?
I believe so.
Yes.
So the motion could be adding the additional language as presented, as discussed, to policy 5512, and then moving to approve the other policies
As presented.
as presented.
Okay, so I move to add in the stricken language from policy 5512 having to do with exceptions for Native American ceremonial use of tobacco products, and move the passage of all the other policies as presented.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any other questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Ken Imers,
Aye.
Andrea Graham,
Aye.
Kirk Lund,
Aye.
Brianna Beslick,
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
Aye. All right, 6C, employee health insurance. As we discussed earlier in the meeting, this is the action item to approve the proposed healthcare plan.
I'll move the board approve the Dean Healthcare plans as presented.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Kirk Lund,
Aye.
Brianna Beslick,
Aye.
Ken Imers,
Aye.
Andrea Graham,
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
Aye. All right, 6D, food service cooler purchase.
So this is an action item to approve a new cooler for the high school walk-in cooler. So Kathy Quayman came to me, and it's something that she's been kind of planning for. We've been repairing it over and over. So she reached out to a couple different vendors. One is Mass Refrigeration Services. So we've worked with them for about 10 years. I was trying to look back and see how long we've worked with them. We've worked with them for some time. And then to get a second quote, she reached out to George's Refrigeration, which is a referral from a local or a nearby school district that has been using them for quite some time and is very happy with their services as well. So they both made the recommendation to replace the cooler as opposed to trying to continue to repair it. And they both provided a very similar quote in terms of what's in the quote. The installation, electrical work, labor, so on and so forth. George's came in a decent amount under, about $1,700 for the whole service and equipment. Kathy Wood, she's really happy with Mass, but knowing that George's came highly recommended, and she's talked to people who have worked with them, and she felt that they were very professional coming in. And based on kind of that dollar amount is recommending to go with the George's Refrigeration quote for this to be replaced. And then just a reminder too, this is coming out of the Fund 50 account or fund. So these are budgeted dollars that are in that Fund 50. So it doesn't impact our operational dollars, but still needs to go through this approval process.
Thanks. I did notice that it appeared that George's estimate was, here's what it'll cost, period.
Mm-hmm.
Where Moss is that how it's pronounced, Moss?
I'm not sure if it's Mass or Mass.
Did have a clause in there to say if there were extra hours needed, there'd be more expense. So I
Correct.
felt a little more comfortable even though, with that piece of it, if, there was kind of a cap on.
I agree.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion?
I move the board approve the bid with George's Refrigeration in the amount of $11,290 for the replacement of the high school cooler.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Brianna Beslick,
Aye.
Ken Imers,
Aye.
Andrea Graham,
Aye.
Kirk Lund,
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
Aye. All right, we are now on to the gifts portion, and we so greatly appreciate everyone who donates to the Lake Mills Area School District, and including these times of celebration when our students have successes. It's just wonderful to see, so.
I'll move the board thank our generous donors for their continued support of our students and programs at the Lake Mills Area School District. We have a $500 donation to the high school football program from Badger Chevrolet, 22 Visa gift cards valued at $50 each, totaling $1,100 from Ruby and Nick Mann to be raffled off to the high school students in celebration of the Lake Mills High School boys basketball team. And then the following donations supported the high school basketball team program for their WIA state tournament. So we've got snacks donated by Rock Lake Activity Center, $150 for lunch from Legendary Lake Mills, $200 for event tickets for band students from Amy Winkleman at American Family Insurance, $310 for a coach bus for student athletes from the Bank of Lake Mills, $310 for a coach bus for student athletes from Greenwood State Bank, $330 for yard signs from Sampta Accounting, $415 for rally towels from Dental Associates of Lake Mills, $415 for rally towels from Lake Mills Market, $415 for rally towels from Crystal Farms, $415 for rally towels from Easy Promotions and Designs, $500 for rally towels from Chapter 2, $500 for a student fan bus and a coach bus for student athletes from Farmers and Merchants State Bank. We are grateful for the incredible community support and proud to celebrate our students' successes together.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any comments?
I guess I would just have to say there is somebody special behind all of these donations that I'm sure is asking all these great community supporters to help us along. So thanks for that behind the scene person.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. And I will ask for a roll call vote.
Ken Imers,
Aye.
Andrea Graham,
Aye.
Kirk Lund,
Aye.
Brianna Beslick,
Aye.
Amy Litcher.
Aye. All right. Upcoming board agenda items for future action or future agenda items. In a week from now will be the special meeting at the high school LMC for school board reorganization. And then on our regular May 19th regular meeting for recognition of staff for years of service, Aaron's last meeting, recognition of the high school summa cum laude, and then the professional contracts, student dues, nursing services, Wisconsin School Nutrition, and then the WIAA membership. In addition, sometime we'll have to talk about setting a time, whether it's closed session to this May meeting or another time for the review, the next step in the superintendent review, so.
Okay.
All right, then I will entertain a motion for adjournment if there's nothing else.
I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
And being this last Kirk's, thank you again. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
You bet. We are adjourned.
All those in favor?